Did you know that 90% of the thoughts, the worries that you have, never happen? And this is why it is very important for us as stewards to understand, because worry is so real when it is happening in that moment, in that time. And yet 90%, I looked at this statistic that WHO put up and I was intrigued. I'm like, so 90% of what we worry about never happens. So why worry in the first place? And so as I thought about this, I realized as stewards, a lot is missed out because we are being pulled, drained of our energy, drained of our peace in the moment where we are worrying. And as I thought about this, I reflected upon my life and I realized I have been in a place where I worry about everything, just like life brings it. You think about the natural grid of life. You think about education. You're thinking about, will I go to school? And then, will I graduate? As you are finishing your graduation, you are again worried about whether you will find a job or not. When you finish getting that job, you've gotten that appointment, you're now moving on, you're wondering whether you will keep that job. So there is worry again whether that job will be kept. And of course, just like you know it, you're thinking now, marriage. Will I get married? Will I find the right partner? The one who will see me for who I am? And all these questions are relevant. But when we embrace worry, not living in the compartment of now, thinking about today, as I am studying, I am focusing on the now. As you get married, you're focusing on that moment of being in marriage and not thinking about children. Life has a way of constantly bringing in things. We live in a world where things are uncertain. And so I can imagine if you as a steward, you're constantly worrying about what is happening because you're following your natural flow as a human, because all humans are bound to worry. We like to be in control. We like to have things figured out. But I want to welcome you to a place of calm, a place of peace, where you allow the things to happen. You allow yourself to be in the moment and in the now. And of course, you might wonder, how do I even bring myself to that place? I know very well that worry is dangerous, not only to my mental, but also to my health. I have seen doctors, when they check your pressure and they see that it is rising, they ask you, are you worried about something? Is something taking you off? Like, are you feeling like things are not adding up? You're worried. And so they ask you those questions because they know the magnitude of worry. And of course, just think of this where you are having something that is going on in your life and you're trying to go in spirals. You're thinking about the negative that is going to come as a result of what is going on in your life. Worry just adds a heavy weight on you. And this is exactly why I sat back and I realized, as stewards, there is a place for us to step forward because this worry has no upside at all. There is nothing that we can get as a result of worry. No wonder the scriptures tell us that do not worry about your life, what you will put on, what you will drink, because he also challenges us that is there anything that we can add? Not even a single day, not even a single hour can be added as a result of worry. And exactly with our life and what is going on, if you worry, you are not adding anything to what is going on. Instead, you are amplifying the problem by magnifying it in your mind and creating all sorts of what if scenarios. And that just pulls you down. And thinking about it, I remember myself, sitting on a border. I hate borders with passion, considering the stories that are being told, how people end up in hospitals, how people's legs get broken, the spine, and all these things. And so You should see me the days I am sitting on a border. I am all going, the worst is going to happen to me. I am thinking about the worst and the worst only while I sit on this border. From the time I start to the time I arrive, I am thinking the worst is going to happen to me. And of course, you can see it with how I am telling this person. Like literally, there are two people riding at the same time. I'm telling him, please move to the left, move to the right, because I am so tensed up and I can't just stay in my place. Sit and just allow him to take you on. And the piece that we miss out on. I imagine if you sat, because again, there is nothing that you can do. If something is to happen, it is to happen. The other example that I can think about that has taken me on is the times when my husband and I are driving in the car, and because you are seeing something ahead, you are constantly reaching for the brakes, and yet you have no control whatsoever. He is the one who has the brake and the accelerator. It's not me, but I am constantly reaching out to it. And that is what worry does, because it makes you feel like you can do something in that moment. It makes you feel like you have to do everything to see that everything is changed in that very moment. And yet, you just go on in a spiral of thought. So, I don't know what is going on in your mind about the things that you're worried about. And just for you to know, if you are choosing a journey of worry, that means you will worry all your life. So when I thought about it that way, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So that means if I choose a journey of worry, that means I worry about everything. Forget about the big grid of life where we talked about school, marriage, and then a child, and all these things that follow suit after life, like the different grids that we go through. Bring it now in the day to day, and you will see if you're choosing that journey, most of the times you will see that you are always tensed up. And I want to invite you to a place where you are at calm, you are at peace, because it's possible that we can choose a journey where we are at peace. And today, we are going to understand why this worry feels so real, why it holds us hostage, and what we can do to redeem our peace. I am on this journey as well because, as you may know, worry always kicks in. Like it comes because of how it is. But some of the things that I'm trying to do is choosing, redirecting my mind to what I can control. The things that I have control over, I redirect my mind. I ask myself, this that is in my presence, do I have control over it? Do I not? And so that is a sobering question. It gets you to be able to answer it and know, is it worth my worry? Is it worth my energy? Is it worth my joy and my peace? If it is something that you cannot control, then you allow the Lord to take charge of it. If you realize that it is something that is out of your control, then try to be able to redirect your efforts, to be able to redirect your energies. Because again, if you are able to realize that this is out of my boundary, I have no control, things that you have control over, you need to be able to know them. Like things like schedule, things like your reaction, your responses. Those are things that you have control over in the moment where worry arises. But there are things that you don't have control over, like people's opinions, what people are thinking, what people are doing. That one you have no control over. And so in that space, always, always ask, is it in my control? Is it not? It helps because then you're able to redirect your energy, your effort. The thing that I am doing, and it is really helping, it's really a funny technique that I'm using. It's called the 5 technique, where you're guarding your senses. Whenever fear or worry arises, you are redirecting and guarding your senses because your thoughts are going in a spiral. And so You ask yourself, what are the 5 things that I can see? In that moment where you feel like worry is arising, you're trying to redirect everything that is going on in your mind, in your body. You're asking yourself the 5 things that you can see, the 4 things that you can feel, the 3 things that you can touch, and the 2 things that you can smell, the 1 thing that you can be able to taste. These 5 techniques, it's called a 5 technique, but literally what they're saying that 5 things that you can be able to see, the 4 things that you can be able to touch, and the 3 things that you can be able to smell, the 2 things that you can be able to hear, and the 1 thing that you can taste. In the moment when quite a number of thoughts, quite a number of worry is arising. And so you're able to redirect your mind, you're able to redirect the senses, you're guarding them so that nothing can be able to. Immediately, as you redirect your mind, immediately what was worrying you, your mind starts to move on to something else. And that is what this technique is doing for you. It is allowing you to shift your mind from the worry direction, the worry station, to now the problem solving station, where you're able to now think positive, think what you can do in that moment. And this now leads me to the second point, where we are going to do what we can do, the most productive thing we can do in that moment when worry arises. And of course, thinking about it, there are things that worry us that are real. For example, I think of the fact that there are things that go on in our life and you realize it is real. It is going to damage you. It is going to, what are some of the steps that you can take in that moment where you realize that this worry is real? Think of the small productive actions that you can take instead of choosing worry. What is that small thing you can do? Because research shows that any action towards what you are worrying about is an antidote to anxiety. And so it puts you in a place where you are in charge and you're trying to do what you can do in that moment. In other words, you're not allowing your mind to go in a spiral. You are calling it back to ask, what can I do in this moment and time? Most of the times we fold our hands and we are just allowing negative thought after negative thought, worry after worry. But how about you choose to do one step that is leading you to some sort of productivity? However small it is, it counts. Try it. I was in a terrible experience at 13 when my mom passed. And I had my sister who was looking up to me. And at that moment, I felt like everything had come to an end. It was real because, in fact, my sister had to leave town and move to the village because she didn't have anyone to take care of her. And so I thought about her not going to school. I thought about her, like I worried for her life. I worried for her future. But as I sat back, I asked myself, so in this moment and time, what is that small thing that I can do? Long story short, I went and bought a small handbook for her that she can use at school. I went ahead and bought simple shoes for her to use at school. And that brought a smile on our faces. You should have seen me showing up with this small book and a pair of shoes for her at school. It wasn't much because I was also in school, but it brought a smile on our faces. We left that place feeling very much encouraged. It was a small step towards what we wanted. I wanted her to stay in school. And I think about it and I wonder why we never think of something productive in a time when worry arises. We just continue in the thought, and yet we are missing out on the power of a small action in that moment. And of course, now the third point is letting go and allowing God to lead on. For sure, there are things where Even the example that I gave, it doesn't fall suit at all. You feel like there is nothing at all that I can do. Don't worry. Leave the Lord to take charge. Allow Him to carry you on. And isn't it amazing that sometimes the things that we worried about, they somehow get resolved by themselves? And the Lord works it out. I think of some of those things and I'm like, I actually passed that place. I was able to go over that challenge. I was able to go over this that I thought was a huge mountain before me. The Lord worked it out. And so allow Him to work out. And by the way, sometimes I feel like our faith is being put on a test. If you are faced with a mountain, what do you do? This huge challenge that is before you, that you anticipate, what do you do? Allow the Lord to lead you. Allow the Lord to take charge of everything. And this is not lack of responsibility. It is just recognizing that there are limits to what you can do. And it is okay. It saves you of so much that you would have gone through. There's so much thought. There's so much worry. There's so much. And by the way, worry rubs on others. Like if you are worried, then that means everything else that you're going to do is going to be in a way that is not serving to you, but also not serving to the other people. And as I thought about this, I was like, okay, enough. Enough of us going in spirals of worry. Let us live in the compartment of today. My heart kept thinking about us because we are stewards. We are people on a mission. We are individuals that are carrying a purpose in our lives. If we choose to live in worry, that means all our life we are going to be out of peace, out of joy, and out of what we need to embrace as humans. I want to invite us to live in the compartment of today because it saves you everything. I can imagine if I am talking to you right now, but my mind is already on the move. I am thinking of the next appointment and I am worried about what is going to happen in that. That means as you're smiling and talking to me, I will not be in position to see you. I'll not be in position to smile back at you in the moment when I need to do that. I will not be able to contribute meaningfully to this conversation, and that denies us the opportunity to be present. I realize even in our conversations, we carry a lot of worry to it. We carry a lot of pain to it, and we miss out on what we can bring. And so reflect the times where you have been in a certain place and you are not there. Like you are not because you're already worried about something else. I think of singles as well. You are a single and you feel like you have taken a long time without being married. And literally, you are worried about whether you'll be able to reach the stage of marriage. And yet, you need to be able to embrace the moment that you have now. There are various opportunities that are available for you in that period that you're in. And so, as we think about these things and as we reflect, there is so much that we can be able to learn, so much that we can be able to redirect. Because however much someone speaks to you, or to anyone else, they can never arrive at that place. It is now you to have a meeting with yourself and ask yourself the things that you're worried about, the things that are taking you to places in your mind and you just can't be in the now. And yet, when the more you think about them, the more you even start to question your values. You start to question your worth. You start to question your principles because you realize that that you're worrying about is negatively painting your picture that you are right now. For example, if you are worried about getting married, you are worried about whether you'll be able to get a job. You're worried about like the different things that we worry about. They negatively paint you in your mind, like it or not, because the fact that you're worried whether you will get married or not, already you're questioning if you're a marriage material. You're worried about that job, whether you'll be able to get it. You're questioning the skill set that you hold. And so worry does more than we can think. There is a picture that it is giving you that will not serve you in the end. And most of these things happen unknowing, like we don't even know they are happening. We don't even know. And whereas myself, I knew that worry had negative effect not only on my emotional but also on my physical, I still found myself in that place. And that is why we are going to harness the three things that we talked about for us to redirect our mind to what we can control, so that we can be able to work within that. And then secondly, for us to take productive action towards what we are worrying about. If you're worrying about that presentation, why not put work preparation to that presentation so that it is a success? To cut the worry, you are putting in the work to see that this presentation that I am worried about is actually well prepared for, so that you can sit back and enjoy that moment as it comes. And then thirdly, we also talked about the fact that there are things that we have no control over. For sure, we have no control. We just have to release and allow God to take charge in that moment, and things will resolve. And of course, thinking about where we started, that 90% of the worries that we hold never happen. And so that should be a wake-up call for you and I to try to kick out these things out of our picture so that we can stand bold, step into the future boldly. And you, of course, one might sit back and say, Rachel, you have no idea. Things are going in a direction that I cannot help but worry. My next question will be to you, when you worry, what will happen? Will it help? From my assessment and from scripture and from the different people that have talked about these things, it does not add anything. It doesn't. And so it is high time for us as stewards that we will embrace our peace, we will embrace our calm, we will take action to what we can and redirect that small energy. Because when you are thinking about worrying, already there is something that is, you are predicting that is going to happen, that is sort of a failure or a defeat or something that is not going to work out well. Instead, channel that effort, that little effort that you have left, to productive work so that you can see some fruit. And as I talk about this, so many examples are going on in my mind in just my life alone. And so if you can take this challenge on with me, that you reflect on how worry has not served you, so that we can now start to take productive action, but also allow us to be in the moment. Because I realize we are living in the future. We are living in the future, because after this goal, there is another. After that goal, there is another. And so we are living in the future, and yet the future never comes. It never comes. And so that leaves you in a place where you never enjoy, you never have your peace, you never have your, because life brings on quite a number of challenges, quite a number of tests. Tell you a funny story. So when I was heavy, pregnant, I was already thinking about who will be able to take care of this child, and thinking about the maids' stories and what goes on in families when children come. I started to worry and wonder how it is going to be. You should have seen me in that moment as I thought about this. And of course, quite a number of negative videos that I have watched about how maids beat up children and how, children go hungry and yet you left food at home. Like you tell them to do something and they don't do it. And as I thought about all these things, I went, instead of being happy that the Lord has blessed my womb, that I am going to give birth, that I am finally going to become a mom, instead of celebrating that, I worried for the next steps. And of course, yes, I gave birth. And that situation, that moment came. I got someone, but still they weren't serving me well. And so I started to ask, so why did I worry in the first place? Why? Why did I worry? Because it drained me of the moment where I was meant to experience this joy that I'm going to become a mom. And in that moment, you are not seeing it. Like you're not seeing, I even complained to my husband. I told him, I wonder what we are going to do when this child is born, because I have heard stories about maids, I've heard stories about what goes on, the different things that one has to mind about. He told me this simple truth: you will cross the bridge when you get there. I didn't like that response. I actually didn't like it. But I now appreciate it, because if I choose to cross the bridge when I get there, it serves. It serves. And I'm not saying that when you are thinking about things, don't plan. That's why we said you redirect your effort. So if you're worried about maids, for example, what are you doing in that moment? What are you doing in preparation for that? Instead of constantly going in spirals and wondering, what is going to become of me? How am I going to do it? How am I going to do this and that? Choose to focus your energy, however small it is, in the area where you can. National Science Foundation records that an average person has about 60,000 thoughts, and 80% of those are negative. And so it just speaks into how you are bound to have negative thoughts as an individual. And that is why, as a steward, you have to take captive and guard. Already the Bible encourages us. It speaks of fear not 360 times. And what does that communicate to us? Each day we have a fear not. Each moment we have a fear not, because he has emphasized to us fear not, because he realizes that as individuals, we are naturally inclined to worry because we want to be in charge. We want to be in control. I invite you to a place of rest. Please allow rest to be your place and do what you can do in that moment. I was also listening to some YouTube, and I realized this lady was saying that whatever you have said, that, when you worry, you're making also statements that are saying, oh, I'm not sure I will make it. She says that add to that statement that that's just the way I want it. That was so sobering. If you are lamenting that I'm not even sure I'll go to school, I'm not sure things will add up for me, I am so worried for my business, and it will not make any profit looking at how things are, add the statement, that's how I want it. And of course, that's not exactly how we want it. We want it different. We want it to move a certain direction. And so they are calling us again to a place of rest, to a place of calm. It is a place that I'm choosing to step in. And I invite you to step into that place boldly so that you can be at the forefront and living in the moment, in the time that you're in, and enjoy life. I hear people say that life is short, but surely for some of us it is not short, because if it were short, we wouldn't choose to spend our short time in worry. We wouldn't. And that is why it is important that you take charge and step forward. Well, until then, keep stewarding.